All right.
Welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune page. Here you will find original news programming, exclusive digital events, and shows that are directly from the community. At the Los Angeles Tribune, we believe in giving a voice to the voiceless. We are proud to be the only national brand to empower everyday people to make a difference. Since 1886, our reputation has been built on truth and responsibility. Thank you for watching and making a difference.
For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
All right.
Good day, everybody. This is Ava Manuel, editor-in-chief of the Los Angeles Tribune, and today we have a Love Month special at the Los Angeles Tribune, and we have an amazing, astounding expert when it comes to vitality, fertility, and everything that's redefining healthcare right now. Dr. Maribelle Verdiales, who also goes by Dr. V, and her panel of experts are going to talk to us today about how healthcare is changing past 40. So you welcome to Fertility Past 40. Dr. V, welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune.
Well, thank you, Ava, for having us here. And I think it's so important for our audience, our patients, our clients to understand that paradigms have been changing. There's so much more out there that they might even realize. And 40s are the new 30s. So there's women postponing childhood after career and development, and there is hope. There are things that are going on in the scientific world that we will be discussing that could give the chance on women that could, in a different setup, being deterred from from trying to have children. But some of these techniques can also be used for anti-aging, living longer, younger, since it's essentially the same thing. So with all that said, I want to introduce our first group of speakers. The Lolly Enterprise family. They have had such a profound personal experience that they set out to recollect information throughout the world of what's out there, what's real, what's not. We just had a new documentary launch in December with Biohack Yourself, and the next sequel is actually She Healed, which is specifically for women's health and anti-aging. So very, very relevant to improving ovarian reserve, menopausal reversal, and therefore fertility past 40. So I want to introduce you and bring to the stage Mr. and Lolly and Anthony Lolly. So in your experience and all of the research that you've done for these two documentaries, what has been the highlight? What have you found that has been the most impactful?
Well, we have two different perspectives, right? So from my perspective as a husband, as a father to a daughter, we thought we covered all the bases with Biohack. After interviewing 114 people, it wasn't until the very end that we discovered you. And it's almost like the fear of the unknown. We didn't know that we didn't know certain things that we needed to know. And, after meeting you and working with you, and your colleagues, it really opened our eyes to giving us hope to say, you know what, we can have two other children, right? And so now we're on the pathway and on that journey. And your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, first, I want to thank you guys for having us. Thank you, Dr. V, for having us on this. And so it's actually not 2 documentaries. It's actually 9 documentaries in total. Biohack Yourself is a 5-part documentary featuring 114 interviews with some of the most renowned experts, founders, scientists. And then Shield is actually a 3-part documentary. So actually 8. We were going to do 4-part, but yeah. So it's 8 documentaries, and these documentaries cover almost everything you can think about in the world of biohacking, in the world of alternative medicine, functional medicine. We even ask questions like, what is the difference between functional medicine and naturopathy, right? Because there's a vast
There's a
confusion
vast
about
difference.
everything, vast
What's what?
difference. Yeah, so we found out, we were in this world going head in, very confused, very overwhelmed, trying to fix our son's health, trying to fix our daughter's health, trying to fix my health, his health. We've dealt with so many things, just, ourselves personally. Like, my husband was 315 pounds for most of his life. He suffered with morbid obesity, sleep apnea, and he was already kind of approaching diabetes and those kind of issues. So we were able to completely eradicate obesity from our life and our livelihood. And, he competed in fitness competitions and he lost
So,
25
so
pounds.
what you're telling me is that the old paradigm that once the damage is done. Once you're going through menopause, you're done. There's nothing that can be done for women past 40 to get pregnant because you're done. It's this massive degeneration. So you're telling me that from all of the interviews, we can reverse aging, right? We can
Yes.
reverse
We can
the
reverse it.
damage.
We've seen it done. We've interviewed people that they've had that done. It's interesting. We're working with Bobby Kennedy in the Maha group. We produced the Maha Ball, and Bobby recently said, and he said, my first day in office, he said, listen, I know you think it's normal to live like this, but we can fix this. And I feel like that reigns true in all areas in our life: anti-aging, getting pregnancy, pausing, the menopause approach, all of those things.
So then, in terms of like fertility in women, have you seen some of the techniques that you've been exposed to at work?
Well, yeah, with fertility now we're understanding there's just so much more involved with fertility, and I'm thoroughly enjoying the research and
Application.
the
Yeah.
precision that we can have with fertility, understanding the hormones, right? It's not just testosterone and estrogen. There's like way many more, ovarian reserve and AMH, and you're the one that educated us on that. And I mean, when I came to you to do our ovarian rejuvenation procedure with V-cell therapy, that was very eye-opening. Like, you can actually rejuvenate your ovarian reserves and promote longevity in your feminine life and push menopause further. And yeah, like, to your point, every condition that we've seen was reversible according to our experts, according to our testimonial people that came on board to talk about their pain to purpose stories. And that was really the highlight through our experience, to understand that no matter where you are in your life, in your health journey, there are solutions. You just need to look deeper, not take conditions and medications from the first doctor. Really put it as your goal to see 20 functional medicine and alternative medicine doctors, because with that kind of volume, you will find better answers that will fit you best and
Well, in all
actually help
fairness,
you.
that's what Shield did, right?
Yeah.
So that's the whole goal of Shield, was because what
So,
happens is once you get down this rabbit hole, then there's infobesity, right? Who do you work with? And so from our POV, it's you work with Dr. V, you work for this person. So we've managed to curate the best experts in the world.
So, I am so excited that you're here because a lot of the people that are coming on board that I work with, they're the scientists. They're so busy, like Dr. Juliana, Dr. Nario, Dr. Barol. They're so busy on getting the science to the next level.
Yeah.
But however, people need to know that it's available. And I know that for those of you that are listening and some of the physicians that will join us, I get the story every day on women that have been almost bullied by other physicians. Oh, you're 43, you're 45. What even you doing here? You should be waiting for your grandchildren. And and that's not the reality of the alternatives out there. So we need to put the information out such that people can find it and they can rewrite the paradigm. It is not set on stones. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves. if we allow them to do so. And there's the technology and the science to overcome what doesn't quite happen in that process. And that's where some of the speakers will be talking about, like the pronuclear transplant or the mitochondrial transplant. So, for example, you can do biohacking and improving the overall health with all of this, from diet to red light therapy to ovarian rejuvenation, get you to this place, and then technology take over and just we are creating history together. But people need to know it's here and it's getting better by the minute. So I
Absolutely.
thank you so much, guys, for joining us. It's a pleasure to work with you, and just keep on doing what you're doing. You're awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. You are as well. Keep on being on the cutting edge of things. We love listening to new discoveries that you're finding out. You're so passionate about your field. So anyone who comes to us for fertility advice, I send them to you, because I feel like you're right there in the
Well, we
front line.
practice what we preach, right? So we
That's
we
right.
do immersive
You wish
documentaries.
unto others, right? You wish
Yeah,
unto others what you wish to your own family. So God
exactly.
bless, and
Thank you.
we'll see you later. Bye
Bye.
bye. So that's so awesome. So, um, and this panel, it's comprised of all different ways of life, because you need to know what is out there for you, and it's not all one size fits all. So I'm very, very excited to continue discovering the rest of our speakers, and I'm gonna get Miss Jennifer from a different standpoint. All right. So, Miss Jennifer, how are you today?
Hello, hello. Happy Saturday.
Happy Saturday. So, Jennifer is a acupuncturist specialized in fertility and fertility enhancement. She's been working for a well-renowned fertility clinic for over 30 years. There's plenty of data on doing acupuncture before and after transfer, improving implantation, and then she combines that with red light therapy. So, Jennifer, talk to us a little bit more about what you do.
Okay, thank you so much for inviting me today. I just want to say a couple things. The term infobesity is new to me. I like that a lot. Instead of information overwhelm, infobesity, that's funny. That's a new one. So thank you for sharing that term. Dr. V, I don't know if you remember the first time I met you, you walked into CMY Fertility and you were introduced as Dr. V for victory in the vagina. And you were
Yes,
wearing a uterus on your
I
head in
was.
the form of
I
a
was
surgeon
wearing
cap.
uterus, and yes.
That was very funny. That was one of the funniest moments. I will always remember that. It's really the highlight of my career there, is meeting you in that moment. That was really funny. I don't think of what I do as alternative medicine. I haven't for a long time. I think of it more like common sense. And so this idea of alternative for me is always the drugs and surgery, right? So when people say, "Oh, you do alternative medicine," I always think, no, I don't. I do common sense medicine because we are designed to heal. We have to just uncover the causation of that. So if we're not healing, why, and what can we do about it? So, I think of acupuncture because I've been in practice a long time and I love the practice. I love going back, looking at our ancestry and our history of what has been working. And I think acupuncture really is best suited for the autonomic nervous system as one of the three systems in the body, right? We have the nervous system, endocrine, and microbiome. And so as I get more involved in the fertility world, I do less acupuncture, less and less, and I do more light therapy and targeted nutrition. Why? Because that is what supports our endocrine system the most and very directly. So I do some acupuncture, but my passion now is how do we repair the endocrine system? The ductless glands. When we were born, most of us were born with this system working. So what is aging? It's the decline of that system. And what causes its decline is often a nutritional deficiency. in the form of vitamins and minerals and vitamin complexes. So when we start supplying the glands with what they need, and then we apply light, and it can be different kinds of light. There's all different kinds of frequency-based medicine out there. Now we really have a synergy of accelerating healing.
Absolutely. And I usually tell my patients that, it's every degree of change takes you closer where that balance tilts in your favor. So I agree totally with you. Part of my own protocols includes a full revisit on patients' habits, from sleeping habits to diet, supplementation, etc. And have you noticed an improvement? So I know that you're a lot more into light therapy and nutrition, but then when you combine that with the acupuncture, have you seen a dramatic effect?
Oh, definitely. Yes, absolutely. And, I think I start to take it for granted. Of course, you're going to get the results you want. Of course, the body heals itself. Of course, we can fix your thyroid, because when you understand what causes the body to repair, it is quite simple. The saying,
simple.
Health is simple.
Once you go down the rabbit hole, then you realize that a lot of chronic diseases have common denominators, and that sometimes they're, it's fairly simple changes that could make such an impactful effect on our overall health. Our bodies are designed to heal themselves, and they want to live longer, younger. So if we take that as our default, our baseline, then it's just providing the body what the body needs to enable to self-regulate, and then use the same mechanisms that the body has to heal, such as BRP or stem cell therapy, and manipulate it in order to achieve, even more dramatic results. So in your experience with fertility and doing the acupuncture, have you noticed, because I've read the studies on acupuncture and improved implantation, but you actually see it. What have you seen in that practice?
Once you get the person into rest and digest, then the miracle occurs. What is the difference between somebody who's having successful outcomes and not? It really comes back to what you're doing every day. I do believe that that's what matters most. So a lot of people are coming to us, they're doing acupuncture regularly, which is a big change than it was years ago. It wasn't the case before. They were just doing acupuncture as part of their IVF experience. Now people are coming in and saying, oh, I've been doing acupuncture for the past couple of years, and because I know this is going to support implantation, I want to do it pre and post. And absolutely, I don't have the data readily in front of me of, it's
but just from experience, so say somebody that did not have the acupuncture and then ended up having acupuncture prior to transfer. I know the data out there is very positive. But from your experience, what have you seen?
Absolutely. My specialty, one of my passions is to prevent miscarriage. And this is where I think we're getting a lot of couples that are doing the same things over and over. It's a kind of desperate emotional approach to, let's just keep going because we know it's going to work eventually. And so I really love to work with couples that have had recurring pregnancy loss, because I know that we can make changes, because we can understand the uterus and the ovaries in particular as being in the autoimmune phase. And we know how to pull them out of that phase.
And what's the theory, I know it, but what's the theory of the acupuncture itself? Is it shifting energy, the chi, the energy, bringing more vascular, more blood flow to that area, and you combine that with light therapy, and then that gets enhanced, and then on top of that, you do the nutrition, and then boom, right?
Right.
The magic happens.
The acupuncture is primarily working on the autonomic nervous system, right? So we're using the nerves directly to get the person out of fight or flight into rest and digest. And that's the first thing. And then we're increasing blood flow to the area, whether it's to the ovaries and uterus directly or to the thyroid. I love working on the thyroid because it's most easily accessed. And as we know, this is where this is how the hormones are being transmitted, is through the blood. So anytime you're bringing fresh blood into the area, you're increasing your chances. Increasing circulation to the area is going to help to re-energize the ductless glands so that they can start working better. So the acupuncture needles are like little conducting rods, and they're simply telling the blood where to go.
This is to go. That's
where
awesome.
to go. Yes. And it's very effective. And obviously, when combined with light therapy, it's more effective. And we really need this now because we're seeing it. This is a good time to be involved in fertility, unfortunately, because there's so many couples.
It's going on the rise.
It's on the rise, and we know why, right? And so it's a good time, and I think
it's time to be part of the solution.
So definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for sharing some of your knowledge with us. I appreciate all of you do. I've had the pleasure of having Jennifer do acupuncture on myself, together with her light therapy, and she's just a well of knowledge. So I will see you soon, and God bless.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. And then I would love to introduce Dr. Austin. I met her. There's no coincidences. He was sitting right next to me at the gala during the event, the launch of the Biohack Yourself documentary, and he is also going to be part of She Healed. He has very quickly become a very renowned coach in hormone balancing for females in a more natural approach. And I would love to see what he has to say about this particular subject, because part of our conversation during that event was that he's seeing more and more of women past 40 trying to get pregnant. So Dr. Austin, I'm very, very happy that you could join us today. So in your experience and all of the clients that you serve, what has been your most successful protocol to assist women with low ovarian reserve?
Yeah, and again, it's thanks for the introduction. It's nice to be here, and I think it really was kind of a godsend that we got sat next to each other, and I'm excited to see kind of where this whole thing goes, especially with your book and everything that you're doing for Women's Health. So I just want to thank you for that. I think the big thing to focus on is I always try to help women implement real changes. I think oftentimes women can kind of get stuck in the weeds, not just women, but people in general can get stuck in the weeds on just all the different information out there. So I always try to boil it down to what I found to be most impactful on a day-to-day basis. And your previous guest was saying just like the importance of having a daily strategy. And I like to tell people, my female clients especially, we have to become really good daily detoxifiers, and we have to have a consistent regimen that we're implementing, because again, when the body is being fed what it needs, things like, your gut cell linings, your intestinal membrane, like it can rebuild within 3 to 5 days. Your red blood cells are rebuilding every 120 days. Like your bones themselves can rebuild every 5 to 7 years, and your liver is being rebuilt every 6 months. And so our bodies are designed to heal each and every day. But I think the problem is when we get in the way of that healing, like probably many of your guests are going to be talking about, it really just slows down the process, and it creates these itises or these diseases that we have names for, or we blame it on old age. But as a woman's getting older into her 40s, a lot of my clients find that, they rely on convenience foods. And so that's one of the first things that we usually start with, is just looking at what their pantry and fridge has in it. And for a lot of them, it's not great. It's processed foods. It's these ultra processed ingredients that, not only create an oxidative response, which then creates an environment for the hormones, which is, for people who don't know, hormones are messenger molecules, like they're responding to that environment, right? And so if your environment is toxic, what are those sex hormones going to do? Progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, like what are they going to be doing? Well, they're going to be running for the hills, because when you're in a surviving state, thriving or having a baby is not a high priority. Like your survival is a higher priority than just to
Correct.
have
I
a baby.
usually I usually describe it as I was just discussing this earlier this week, is that testicles, uterus, and ovaries are end organs. They're non-essential for survival. So unfortunately, they're at the end of the food chain.
Right.
So you have to take care of the forest before you take care of the trees, right? You have to be able to supply all the needs of the body. So sexuality and reproduction are considered luxuries for the body. So if you're barely making it yourself, then that's the first thing that goes out. It's going to, in this particular scenario, we're talking mostly about women, but it can be implemented in men. Testes and ovaries are end organs, they're non-essential. So they will get the leftover nutrients and food and whatever's needed for them once the rest of the essential organs needs are met.
Absolutely.
So I think that's very, very, very important, and it's half of the game.
Yeah, and I think again and it's like it seems so obvious, and I think especially for healthcare providers, we it becomes so much a part of our verbiage, our language every single day that we kind of forget, how obvious it is. But for some people, it's not as obvious as one might think, because if you go to a conventional doctor, and this isn't to rat out any kind of conventional provider, but if you go to a conventional provider, typically that doesn't have this perspective, you're going to start looking for, okay, well, what's the deficiency in the sense of from a pharmaceutical perspective? And oftentimes, I just want to get my clients thinking about like, well, what's the deficiency from your perspective? Like, you know your life, like you're the expert on your day. Like, what things are you struggling with? And they'll say like, well, I have a lot of things going on. I have a ton of stress. I have to take the kids here and there. I don't have time to prep a meal, so we're relying on convenience foods. I don't have time to enjoy myself throughout the day, so I have to reclaim a little bit of my time at night. So I'm staying up a little bit later, watching Netflix on my phone, doom scrolling, and all those things, believe it or not, we all know it, but inherently, but they actually affect you, right? And they affect your circadian rhythm, which affects your insulin sensitivity. That can lead to things like PCOS, endometriosis, that can create more of an inflammatory response. And so all these things, like I keep it very, very practical, and I try to make it just to a point where it actually empowers the client to just see like, hey, I have some control over my future and how I can feel.
Yes. I'm not a victim out of my situation. I'm not a victim from my genetic predispositions. I usually talk to people about, you're not your gene pool. You might have some genetic predispositions. I personally don't like labels. Labels just hurt people more than anything else. So I talk about, you have potential cancer predisposition, potential diabetes predisposition, potential this. I think it's a lot more gentle. We are more in control of things that we think we are. And in this paradigm of, improving health and fertility past 40, once you get, and I tell this to my patients, once you get healthier, right, then IVF, for example, is not the cure-all. It's not like, oh, well, I'll go through IVF. But if your eggs are not good, then you're going to have failed transfer, even if we can supply it to the next level. That to me is the mitochondrial transplant stuff. You have to give your doctors the best egg possible. And a lot of times what I see in my practice is that people in the prepping, in the trying to clean up, in the trying to optimize their ovarian reserve because they have low AMHs, because they've had bad cycles before, they get pregnant spontaneously because that's all they needed. All right. But for those of you out there that, don't get to that stage and have to go further, you still have to do the basic homework, like Dr. Austin is saying. You still have to do, your due diligence. We are just here to coach you, but you are the athlete, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of people like that language to a certain extent. And I think once you get past this idea that it's not shaming anybody, that like, this is, the environment you've created, it's like, how can we move forward with some level of actually making some progress? And I think if there is another person in your household, another partner, getting them on board, because they play such an important role in
teamwork. And in fertility, it takes two to make a baby.
Exactly.
So
Absolutely.
it has to be, both couples need to be on board. So Well, thank you so much, Dr. Austin, for joining us today
Absolutely.
and doing the work that you do. We need more of you out there teaching people on how to take control of their lives. We're not victims. We're co-creators. So thank you so much.
Much.
All right. So coming up, it's a personal friend, very spicy, beautiful woman that I've had the pleasure to work with in many areas. She is a naturopath and teaches other healthcare physicians on how to read lab work and hormones from a functional medicine perspective, but her latest thing is how to use peptides in order to cause that accelerated healing and anti-aging that not only improves lifestyle, improves health, improves sexual health, but also improves fertility. So please say
Hi.
hey to Dr. Tracy.
Hello. Sorry, I'm in my car, but I was at a show and another thing, so I pulled over. So good to be here. This has been wonderful. Thank you for having me on.
So, Dr. Tracy, talk to us a little bit about peptide therapy and how can that improve ovarian reserve
Oh,
and female health?
absolutely. So, yeah, I think peptides have really become hot and heavy lately. And, whatever side you're on with GLP-1, they are peptides. They've brought these extremely beneficial and therapeutic amino acid chains back to the forefront. And they have been used in functional and integrative care for decades very safely. And some of the peptides that I love for fertility, things as simple as BPC 157, SS31, all great things. But peptides, I would say, Dr. V, are probably tertiary. When we're listening to Dr. Austin, we're listening to the other practitioners, it's always foundations first. It's always nutrition. It's always figuring out what are your levels with your hormones. It's figuring out how do we eat to support a growing baby. The peptides can really help with the therapies you're talking about, like mitochondrial transplants, and enhancing that within someone, as well as the anti-aging and keeping the cellular regeneration happening. So all of that is vital. And so I would consider peptides a complementary therapy to everything that you're talking about today. They're kind of like the bridge that
Absolutely.
pulls the roads together.
That little extra cherry on top.
That's right. That's
And
right.
and then of course in the fertility world we talk about, the CoQ10 and its derivatives and how that supports mitochondrial health, and then that by itself will improve the health of the ovaries.
Right.
They talk about resveratrol, inositol or myoinositol, for women
Mhm.
that tend to have insulin resistance. So there's a lot of choices before medication itself that could really help, or it
Mhm.
could be complementary to whatever fertility treatment you're seeking, right? The
Yeah.
essential, for example, vitamin D is essential for ovarian and testicular function, and it is considered a prohormone. And most of the population is deficient out there for multiple reasons. So, what other, ingredients, what other supplements would you recommend for a client that's coming in trying to achieve pregnancy past 40?
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly what you said with all of the mitochondrial regeneration, supplementation. But just to get back with peptides, just so people understand, peptides are not pharmaceuticals. They're not classified as a drug. They are a string of amino acid chains that your body makes naturally. And what normally happens is people with mitochondrial dysfunction, any type of inflammation in their body, which is the majority of the population, we can no longer produce these at levels that help our cells regenerate or detoxify. So,
Mhm.
peptides are created in the body when you eat something that's of a protein source. So, let's talk about foundational protein for women that are trying to get pregnant. I mean, I'm your classic case. I'm 50. I had my last child at 40. So, I am the 40-year-old who had fertility and was able to produce a child. But that is not everybody's story. And we're seeing that younger and younger. And it was because of the way that I lived and the way that I ate and how I took care of my body. Sometimes people are doing all that and they need that little leg up. And that's where peptides can come in and help with regeneration. So just to make sure people realize it's not necessarily an injectable, you can deliver peptides through many different systems, one being orally in a nutraceutical capsule, just like a supplement. And there are great companies out there that do that. And then you can also do injectables. You can do creams that are topical. You can do suppositories. So many different delivery systems on peptides. And basically ones like
Absolutely.
SS31, you know, they help with the egg quality. You know, the mitochondrial dysfunction that we see is linked to the age-related decline in the egg quality. And I don't like to say infertility. I like to say subfertility, because not everybody is infertile. You're subfertile. With a little
Correct.
help and natural support, you can take that subfertility and increase it to total fertility. There is
Yes.
clinical infertility, but I think the majority of people that we are
Are
talking about
subfertile.
are
Absolutely.
subfertile, right? And
They
that's
just need
actually
that little extra push that, they
absolutely.
needed that little extra push. And, I think you touched something that's very important. This peptides, and has become such a hot word out there.
Mm-hmm.
We actually produce it ourselves. It's just our production declines with age and with use and abuse of our protein production pathways. And even in fertility, for example, we tend to add human growth hormone that
Mm-hmm.
it declines as we age, because it does help with the ovarian reserve and maybe getting a few
Right.
extra eggs through an IVF cycle, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So these peptides are just small. They go faster to the target site and provoke a reaction. But that's pretty much what hormones are in general. It's a
Right.
biochemical signal. So these peptides are just healing biochemical signals that, because of our aging process, and more of the aging process, the deterioration that comes from not doing the right things for our bodies, then they tend to decline. And we have ways to artificially supplement them to enhance the healing and correct the pathway. I usually say that you can either invest in living or invest in dying.
This
Right?
is true. Mm-hmm.
How good you want to live? Do you want to have a healthy lifespan and then a very short deterioration? Because we're all dying, right? So we're going to exit this world. How you want to exit? You want to exit as healthy as you can, or you're going to have a very short youth and then a very prolonged sick life. And like I said at the beginning, even though we're focusing on women past 40, this information can be applied to men and women as they invest into their lives, into their
Mm-hmm.
living and their quality of life.
Yeah,
Right?
absolutely. And oxytocin, I mean, that's a beautiful peptide that is produced naturally by the body. It regulates uterine contractions, libido, bonding with the baby. It's elevated after
Exactly.
birth. So these are natural things that God has put into our body already. Sometimes people don't have the ability to create them. And even with hormone replacement therapy, if people choose to do that, or IVF, or whatever that looks like, or they're trying to go all natural, if we're trying to help with growth hormone stimulation, there's peptides that can be used, like ipamorelin, tesamorelin, that will help with the production of growth hormone, that can make these other therapies so much better. And then in conjunction with that foundational lifestyle, additional supplementation, you can use things like Kispeptin 10, which is a master hormone regulator. It stimulates growth hormone, it controls FSH, it controls LH levels. MOTS-C for mitochondrial peptide for cellular energy, epitalin. So there's just so many that are out there. Peptide therapy is a whole practice in itself. And just like your guests prior to me were saying, it takes a village. It's not one person that's going to walk in and save you or help you. It's a collection of great minds that all specialize in what they do. I don't claim to be a fertility specialist, but I know peptides enough where if you had a client, Dr. V, and you called me up and said, hey, what are some peptides that we could put in conjunction with this protocol? That's where you and I bridge the
To
gap for
enhance
that
it.
patient. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's where I believe in a universe of collaboration. And it
Hmm.
is through teaching each other. Even the patients come to me with information that just triggers my mind. It's never giving up. There's no question that is a bad question. The bad question is the one that's not asked. And then as we keep going down the rabbit hole, that is how new discoveries occur. And you did point out something, even though the buzzword out there is peptides, or let's put it the other way around, enzymes are a form of peptide.
Absolutely.
What we describe as peptides in the in the world of natural medicine is that peptides are shorter than the hormones are, and then you do have hormones that are cholesterol based, like the sex hormones. But this has been awesome. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Tracy, and we'll keep working together to make this a better place.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, so I'm super excited. I'm going to bring up a new personal favorite friend. I had the honor of meeting Dr. Uliana recently. So as you have been hearing so far, there's some basic things that need to happen. So let's say you are 44 years old, you want to get pregnant, and we have to start with the basics, like everybody has mentioned. You need to start with your sleeping habits, your eating habits. There is something out there, a fertility diet, which I generally recommend people to abstain from grains. That's wheat, corn, soy, oats, rice, and then abstain from nightshades, that is beans, peppers, eggplant, tomatoes, cashews, and peanuts. And why do I tell people to do that? Is to avoid any possible allergen that could trigger the immune system and deviate the energy from healing to surviving, right? I want you to thrive. You need to be thriving in order to go to the next level of reproduction. Like I said earlier, sexuality and reproduction are luxuries for nature. So if you're barely surviving, then your body smart is going to shut down your reproductive organs, and then you're going to not be able to get that baby that you want in this case, or end up with earlier menopause and accelerated aging. And I don't think anybody really wants that either. So I do have patients that go through, for example, ovarian rejuvenation, just because they want to live longer, younger, just because they want to delay menopause. And there's been some studies on using the ovaries as a biological clock for females as a marker of longevity. So I am going to bring up Dr. Uliana. She
Dr.
is an
V, I'm very, very excited with what you are, bringing to the Los Angeles Tribune. This is so timely. We are so grateful for this program, this Love Month special. And I just wanted to give you the flowers because you're bringing all of these experts to our audience, bringing this information. A lot of this information is personally, even as a healthcare provider, is new for me. So I want to thank you for doing this and, for bringing all the experts to all of our viewers. And before you bring Dr. Uliana, let me run a quick commercial and then we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome to the Los Angeles Tribune. Since 1886, our name has been a part of the world of journalism. We have earned a reputation for being a publication that practices integrity, authenticity, and responsibility. For general inquiries, contact today. Thank you on behalf of the Los Angeles Tribune team.
We are back and very excited to talk with Dr. Uliana. And right before I, finish my introduction to her, I just want to address some of the comments here. Um, so we're talking here about anti-aging and how to reverse some of the damages. And there's two schools of thought, and one of them is determinism, right? Like we are determined to die at a certain time and a certain age. There was a research. There's actually a book, The Blue Zones of Happiness, which I found it very fantastic. Um, Supposedly we have about 65 years based on the telomere length and how many times we could reproduce. However, there are people that live longer than that, and some of it has to do with epigenetics and how we live our lives, right? Which genes do we turn off and off? And also, when the body, when we are a mind, body, spirit unit, when our soul, our bodies determine that we are essential for our community, the telomerase enzyme actually gets activated, extending the telomere, therefore our age. So anti-aging is real, and we are seeing it every day. So going back to Dr. Juliana, and what is she doing? She is an IVF specialist, and more than that, great human being, and she works in conjunction with the embryologist, Dr. Birol, and together they're truly making history, because even after women have done all of the anti-aging they can possibly do, they could do, ovarian or intrauterine PRP, they could do V cells, they could do stem cell therapy, and we could potentially even improve their ovarian reserve, improve how many eggs they can get in an IVF cycle, or even how many eggs they can produce in general. There seems to be a group of women that's not quite enough, and the science is going back to the mitochondria. Unfortunately, even though we can improve the quality of the eggs, sometimes that's not enough to sustain the energy required for implantation and development. And so in many places in the world, the next step is donor eggs. And for me as an IVF specialist, that's what I was telling people. However, that's not the case anymore, because with pronuclear transplant or mitochondrial transplant, as it's known out there, or spindle transplant, we can provide the parent's nucleus a brand new home, brand new fresh cell that does provide young mitochondria and young parts of the cell that could push that process over and then provide a biological child to a set of parents. Out there, they call it the 3-parent child, but ultimately it will be phenotypical, just like the parents. So, hi, Dr. Juliana. How are you doing today?
Hello, good morning and good afternoon, good evening. I'm here from Europe. So I know that we are connected in the different time zones, and I would like to thank you, Dr. V, for traveling the miles and the continents and meeting us just recently in Tirana, Albania, where we are practicing our mitochondrial replacement therapies.
So could you talk to us a little bit more about how did that start and your results with that technology?
Yes, absolutely. So as you mentioned before, I'm just very happy to have a wonderful team and to be part of that, network of us, mainly myself and Birol. But Birol is the great mind. He is a great person. He's never stoppable in terms of the innovations and technology. He's a wonderful person, caring about patients and about the results. So I am practicing IVF since 2008, and I know Birol since 2016. This is the time when he already practiced mitochondrial replacement therapy in Ukraine. We need to know about the country's regulations, and this is something what makes fertility world global, because for the specific treatment, which are not allowed in some countries, patients are traveling to the different destinations. That is very well informed for everyone about the egg donation or surrogacy treatment. However, mitochondrial replacement therapy, being an innovation in fertility world, is also quite regulated technique. Still, it's already allowed in different countries, in the UK, in Australia, and in New Zealand. And in the UK, it's allowed since 2015, but with the small mark for the treatment of the primary mitochondrial genetic disorders. However, the technology itself is proven to be safe. And this technology helps patients with secondary mitochondrial disorders, because the aging process, this is also a mitochondrial disorder. Even if this is not genetically predisposition, it's not a primary disorder, but while we age, if we want to improve the chances of the patient to become a genetically related parent, if patient still can produce her own oocyte, mitochondrial replacement therapy is an alternative for her to have her biological child. While treating patients, and my category of the patients is over 40, very rarely I would see patient who is up to 40. I used to say many, many years. Either we will continue your treatment, and if while you will do many IVF rounds repeatedly, you will have a chance between about 1 to 10% to have a healthy euploid embryo, which is the very important milestone in the IVF treatment, which will have the best potential for the implantation, and we will be successful with the live birth. However, this is 1 to 10% compared to the mitochondrial replacement therapy, which improves those chances significantly. So this is what I do. This is what I believe in. I believe in technology. I believe in the innovations. I believe in the great teamwork, and we are having wonderful results.
Awesome. So I had the honor to meet and see this technology firsthand as just last week. And it's very important for people to understand, because in many, many places, they don't have access to this technology. So essentially, this is very good for those women that are past 40 with low AMHs. For those of you that don't know what that means, it's a marker for ovarian reserve and how many eggs we can potentially recoup. And so in general, Dr. Barol and Dr. Uliana will work with anybody in the world. So if your fertility clinic is work with her, for example, they just need to freeze the embryos really early on at the pronuclear stage, and then they can be shipped overseas for them to work on them, do the transfer, and then do genetic testing for them, because the embryos recuperate so well after the transfer is made. They do genetic testing on embryos as a default on all of them, and they do extremely well. Some of the patients that I treat in the US, because that's not a choice, I tend to recommend day 3 freezes, because even if genetically the embryo is young, if the embryo is well, the rest of the organelles of that cell are more frail, and they tend to be not enough, and we lose normal embryos trying to get it to a stage where they can be biopsied. But I saw firsthand an embryo of a 44-year-old lady who came in from overseas, and it looked a little fussy. It was not, it looked like it was from somebody older. I saw the technique of removing that pronucleus. And what does that mean? That is the stage right before the mom and the dad's nucleus join, that gets removed. It gets put into a young, brand new cell. and then allowed for the process to continue. 36 hours later, I was able to look at those embryos under the microscope, and you could not tell that they came from a 44-year-old woman. They looked like they were 25 years old. So then after that, they get grown past day 5, they get biopsied, and then the parents, just like any other IVF clinic, gets the report 3 weeks later and then decide to transfer. So this technology is kind of the next step. So first, fundamentals like our other practitioners were talking about, your diet, your supplements, whether you do peptides or light therapy or acupuncture, fasting versus not fasting, whatever it takes for you to improve what you have, right? And then if IVF or your fertility treatment is not working, then you don't necessarily have to jump straight into donor eggs like most of us think, right? There is a next level up where those children are going to be biologically yours, but it's almost like changing the motor of a car into a brand new car. So the rest of the pieces will support that nucleus and develop a healthier embryo. So
Absolutely correct, Dr. V. So what is important? The donor involvement is also very important because we are very specific on how we select donors for the mitochondrial replacement therapy because their environment, their cell environment, this is something where the DNA from patients is going to develop. So they are playing very important role for the development of the blastocyst themselves. Of course, the genetic potential and the euploidity of the blastocyst are coming from the DNA of the patient. So we cannot reconstruct the DNA, but we are reconstructing the cell. And there are so many science behind this. And already it's proven on the animal model. And in our group, we have 29 babies which are born. We are following their health status and they are perfectly healthy. We have a wonderful group of patients who are supporting each other and they are supporting the population because patients need to know about the techniques which are possible. They can make decision after the informative decision, information was delivered to them. If we are going not to share this information, how we will know that these technologies are practiced elsewhere, even they are not allowed in the home country? But that's about the
correct.
regulation globally.
Exactly. And it is by switching the paradigms, okay? It is by sharing what we learn and we experience that we can help others benefit from this type of technology. It is out there, it is available. So Fertility Past 40, it's changing. The rules have been changing. We're super excited about it. And like I mentioned before, there's no magic bullet. It is the combination of therapies. Okay, so maybe it's somebody that needs to improve their lifestyle and improves their health, and then they might end up doing ovarian rejuvenation with PRP and or stem cell and cell therapy, so some exosomes or stem cells, right? And then now you get better eggs out of that patient, and then you can do the mitochondrial transplant therapy and give that patient the chance of having a healthy biological child genetically tested. I think that what's going on out there, it is fantastic, and I am extremely proud to be part of all of this that's going on. So what do you think the technology is going to go from here?
We are running an egg bank, and I've been in the third-party reproduction for years. And with the development of the techniques, we believe that this third party is going to be involved. But the way how it's going to be involved in the fertility treatment, this will change. We are talking about in vitro gametogenesis, but we are somewhere on the very, very early stages of this development. However, about reconstructive therapies, we are already there. Still, there are a lot of ethical dilemmas. This is not part of the guidelines. However, we need to remember that 50 years ago, there was 0 babies born using the IVF. So we are just 50 years past, and it's not easy to be strong enough to be an innovator. But without innovating and without pushing the boundaries and the technologies, we will not be able to help patients. I'm a fertility doctor. I'm seeing patients every day, and this is so hard to tell them. Unfortunately, you have no egg. Unfortunately, your embryos are not genetically normal. Unfortunately, we haven't get the implantation this time. So this technique, this is something what helps me to tell them, congratulations, we have an egg, we have a healthy embryo, we have a successful implantation. With this technology, we have very little, like almost no miscarriages, because we are testing embryos, we are transferring healthy embryos, we are doing a lot of preparation. And here the cooperation between doctor and the patient, between professionals in the field, I also would agree 100% about the impact of the health status, impact of the metabolic status of the patient, the biochemical process. Everything matters because we are working with quite a complicated population of the patients, which are 40 plus. So physiologically, they are more complicated because of the processes in our bodies are different. However, sometimes we see so well prepared patients, and if they are all very mature in terms, because they had already multiple rounds of the IVF. They know how medications act. They know a lot of things. They are experts in that field. However, we still need those technologies. And this is great that we are talking the same language, that we know that we cannot guarantee, but we are doing our best in order to be where we want to be, with the successful live birth and the healthy pregnancy and the healthy baby.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Ileana, for joining us. I can't wait to see more of what comes out of your embryology lab. I was just blown away. Dr. Birol was even doing something called IGM, IMV, which is
yeah,
which is taking the immature eggs and trying to mature them overnight. So finishing the IVF process with gonadotrophin
yeah.
in the lab, and then making those eggs, or trying to save those eggs and mature them and fertilize them. So there's a lot of choices out there for you if you are trying to be pregnant and you're not ready to make that transition to donor eggs. You don't have to. Dr. Ileana works with clinics around the world. She has her mitochondrial transplant therapy in Tirana, Albania, but she has the things in place that if you need to ship from the US or from Europe or from South America, the abilities there to do so, and just coordinate between the embryology lab from your clinic and the doctors and with Dr. Ileana's team. Thank you so much again, and I am definitely seeing you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Dr. Bye-bye.
So, as we've heard so far, there's as long as there's life, there is hope. There is so much out there that we just don't know, and unfortunately, all of us, we don't know what we don't know, right? So we always have to keep a curious mind, have that child alive within us. It, if there's one thing about our universe that it is true, is that's constantly evolution, and it's changing. So we can always count on change. There's very little that we understand from our biology. There's very little that we understand from our universe. So when we think that we know it all, we're a danger to ourselves and others. So please stay curious. Please stay that childlike stage of discovery, and we will continue doing many, many good things together. So as we wait from some of our speakers, we can maybe start getting some of the questions on board. Okay. All right. So I have a question about the effect of fasting and okay, I have two questions. All right, I'll do this one first. Can we freeze eggs now since we may not have a partner? And can Dr. Ileana team do mitochondrial transplant, or is it only pronuclear transplant only the solution? No. So yes, you can do egg freezing cycles and then do spindle transplant. It is not the ideal because embryos are always going to be stronger. So success rate in terms of survival is going to be better. But yes, you can definitely do that. And you can also even do frozen embryo, I'm sorry, frozen egg retrieval. Let's freeze the eggs. And then down the road, if you do decide to fertilize them, then do the pronuclear transplant at that time. So there, there are many options. There's many ways how to skin the cat. So going back to the question on the effect of fasting and ovarian reserve. So fasting is it's another of those easy accessible ways of causing detoxification and anti-aging. Fasting can be defined in many ways. You can do intermittent fasting, which starts at 12 hours. In the ideal world, you would be fasting 12 hours. If your last meal is at 7 p.m., then your first meal is at 7 a.m. I usually tell my patients to go ahead and do a little bit more, so a little bit more of a prolonged fast, and then skip breakfast. So last meal at 6 p.m., first meal at noon the next day, and that gives them an 18-hour fast. That could be life-changing. There's a lot of documents on prolonged fast. I know it's not for everybody. And how does this help, ovarian reserve? Because fasting not only stimulates metabolic resetting at a glucose level, at a endocrinological level, but it also induces something called apoptosis of ghost cells or senescent cells, right? And that goes through the entire body. So it's almost like you stop your factory. Our bodies is a factory, and then you stop the factory and then go ahead and go into maintenance repair, and like you're cleaning the closet, right? And so as we eliminate all of these cells that are taking energy from healthier cells, we allow that body to kind of reboot. And I've seen that just by doing fasting, even if it's intermittent fasting 3 to 4 times a week, I've seen AMHs go up. So fasting by itself, again, fundamentals and minimal intervention can make a huge difference in your fertility journey. I had a patient recently, she's one of my stem cell patients, where she changed her diet, okay? And then I did put her on some peptides, like Dr. Tracy was talking. So I put her on SS31 and BP C157. And then I usually will also include NAD plus. Again, everything to help the mitochondria. She received mesenchymal placental stem cells with exosomes IV, as well as intraovarian and intrauterine. Her AMH went from 0.4, for those of you that know that, and then bump up to 0.8. That means that it doubled just from that intervention, right? Then she went on to do IVF. She had originally a failed IVF with like all of her eggs dying. Then she went to do IVF, followed by 5 eggs being retrieved. 3 were fertilized, and 2 were transferred on day 3. We did a day 3 transfer that did not work. Then she decided to take it to the next level, and she actually did a prolonged 10-day fast, a 10-day water fast, and that's for the advanced fasters. And she saw a huge improvement. She was only doing NAD, the peptides, fasting, and water, and then went through an IVF cycle and produced 11 eggs. And out of those 11 eggs, she ended up having 5 blasts. What does that mean? It's an embryo that made it all the way to at least day 5 in the lab. So that is huge. And that's just, I'm giving you that example as in the fertility arena. But if you think, again, this is all applicable to our health overall, then extrapolate that into how is that body working. That's how much better her systems are working, right? So I'm a fervent believer on fasting. I think that we should definitely do a lot more of that. So for those of you that have not seen my book, this is The Healing Circle. It is available in Amazon or through our webpage. There's some really good information. Some of the stuff that we're describing today, there is some information on PRP, ovarian, and testicular rejuvenation. Okay, remember, the guy's ovaries are the testicles. So anything that we're doing for the girls can be applied for the boys. But it also talks about the importance of and the effect with basic fundamental changes. For example, sleeping. We are in a situation where sleeping is not emphasized enough. Our bodies are designed to sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. Our growth hormone naturally spikes at night. And, growth hormone is extremely important for healing. It is extremely important for regeneration, growth, right? Growth. And that's why in the fertility arena, sometimes we give it artificially for patients in order to improve cycle outcomes. But something as simple as something as simple as sleeping the 7 to 9 hours a day, you're getting the most amount of your natural human growth hormone as possible. Sleeping the time frame also, it's involved with the leptin-ghrelin ratio. So leptin is your satiety hormone, ghrelin is your hunger hormone. And then all the cascade of events, there's more insulin when you don't sleep, there's more inflammation. So something as simple as sleeping the hours that you need to do and having a restful night's sleep could have a huge impact on your health and your fertility. So, this is just a quick manual of all of the things that I tend to share with my patients. For example, I'll share one more case study on a guy. So a few years ago, I had a 28-year-old ex-military guy came in and had abnormal parameters in his semen analysis: low count, low morphology, low motility. We did what we normally do with fundamental work, diet, supplements, and then he went through testicular PRP. The plan originally was to do IVF because his sperm count was only 10,000 million, 10 millions only. And then, the rest of the parameters being low, so they had decided to do IVF. Well, they never came back. After doing the testicular PRP once, they just called to cancel their appointment because they were pregnant. So again, there's a lot of choices out there. So now I wanted to introduce another of our speakers. very dear to my heart. It's Dr. Nario. He is the medical director and the research director of CBC cells in Guadalajara, Mexico. Those are the cells that I use personally for myself, for my family, and then for my patients. He has a long history in the anti-aging world. His background is on geriatrics, but he's pretty much done research on chronic disease, multiple publications um, on, for example, stem cell therapy and critical COVID patients, stem cell therapy and diabetes, stem cell therapy and autoimmune, Parkinson's, autism. And so a world of knowledge. So I want everybody to say hi to Dr. Nario. Hi, Dr. Nario. How are you today?
Hello, thank you, Dr. Verdiales, for inviting me, and thank you for I don't know how can I say say to English. Sorry, I'm not speaking it very well, but today is a very great day for everybody. For me, it's, I'm going to speak Spanish a little bit for the Doctor.
Yes, so
Yeah,
I'll do some of the translation as needed.
yes, please. Ya, estoy muy emocionado y contento para poder contestar todas las preguntas y dudas que tengan.
So he's saying that he's extremely proud to be here and that he is ready to answer any questions. So Dr. Nario, could you talk to us about how does mesenchymal stem cell works? ¿Cómo funcionan las células
Ya.
mesenquimales?
Estas células tienen ciertas características que nos ayudan a mejorar nuestros órganos y tejidos. Entre estas características más importantes es que son sus factores de crecimiento, son sus características inmunomoduladoras y características antiinflamatorias.
So he's saying that the crucial part of these mesenchymal cells that help us, mesenchymal stem cells that help us, is the growth factors that are involved with them. They're immunomodulator factors, and they are also anti-inflammatory. They do communicate cell to cell, so they actually kind of help our cells kind of reprogram themselves and shift from apoptosis, kind of rescue cells, shift from apoptosis, and then move into healing. I think we lost him there for a little bit. So CBC Cells and his lab is fully accredited not only at the Mexico COFEPRIS level, but also the European Stem Cell Society. And they use a third party lab in order to make sure that the cells do have the characteristics that they need to have. And the other thing is that why are we using exogenous, like donated stem cells instead of patient stem cells? There is the capacity of doing your natural stem cells, but those cells are going to have the same age as the patient and are in the same environment as the situation the patient's in, whether it's cancer, autoimmune, or decreased fertility. Whatever's happening at the level of the ovary, for example, is going to be happening at the level of the rest of the body. So it's almost like bringing the next best thing to an embryo, and that would be placental stem cells, and those are the ones that we use, or cord stem cells, or mostly labeled as Wharton jelly. And a question that I get all the time is, well, but that's a foreign cell. So how is that going to, am I going to have an allergic reaction? What's going on? There we go. I'm glad that you're back. So, and the answer to that is these cells, if you think of the physiology of the placenta, it's a buffer between the mother and the child. The child is a foreign object. It is a foreign organ, right? And so placenta cells do not elicit the signature proteins on their surface that will cause an immune reaction on the host. And that's how we can bypass the host immune system and use them the way we do. Another question that I get often as I'm using stem cells, especially for fertility, is, oh my God, is that DNA going to get incorporated into my ovaries and my eggs? No, because these are foreign stem cells, they will not be part of your tissues. They will not be incorporated as part of your tissue. They will do their work and let your body do the rest. So what he was saying earlier about the immunomodulation, the growth factors, the paracrine function, and the anti-inflammatory effect of the stem cells, they will start that process and eventually die off and get eliminated and digested. We know from the stem cell science that depending on how those cells are introduced into the body, that's how long they're going to last. So if it's an IV infusion, they're usually gone by 7 days. If it's an intrathecal or into the bone infusion, is 14 days, and intraperitoneal will be 21 days. So, le estaba explicando a todo el mundo un poquito sobre los stem cells. Pero me gustaría hablar, I would like to ask you about some of your research. For example, the paper that you did on COVID. El paper de COVID que publicaste. No se te escucha muy bien.
Ah, 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 ¿Ready? ¿Listo?
Yes. Listo.
Ok, sí, el protocolo que hicimos fue un protocolo que hicimos porque no había un tratamiento específico para el COVID y la primera causa de muerte en el COVID era el proceso inflamatorio. Ese proceso inflamatorio que causaba que los pulmones, los alveolos se colapsaran y los pacientes tenían que intubarse. Entonces, en ese protocolo nosotros pudimos demostrar que con nuestras células de CD cells tienen la función de inhibir la inflamación, que es una característica de estas células. Y otra función es que pudimos regenerar y mejorar la función de esos alveolos. Esto mismo que sucedió a nivel pulmonar es lo mismo que sucede en el endometrio. Hay un proceso inflamatorio importante, ¿verdad? Hay una característica también ahí inmunomodulador, el cual no permite que el óvulo fecundado muchas veces no se pueda implantar de una mejor manera. Entonces, al inhibir esa inflamación e inmunomodular, podemos mejorar el microambiente para poder mejorar la función de ese órgano específico, ya sea el alveolo o ya sea otro órgano o tejido.
So they actually published in an international journal the effect of they did a protocol for critically ill ICU COVID patients and their survival rates. So essentially, they asked permission to this very large hospital if they could treat half of the ICU patients that were there for COVID. If we think about what was going on with COVID, it was mostly, or the death from COVID were related to the lung at the alveolar level. So that means that the little vesicle, the little bubbles inside the lungs, and then that needed intubation, and then all of these inflammatory cascades that would end up in tissue degeneration and organ failure. And so the patients that were treated with cell therapy and stem cells, not only was that blocked and reversed, so the inflammatory process was able to be blocked and reversed, but also some of the damage in the rest of the organs were able to be reversed and cause tissue regeneration. And I know because I read the paper, the control group, there were 10 people in that ICU that were admitted due to COVID complications, and 5 were given stem cells and 5 were not. the 5 people that were not given stem cells, they all died from COVID complications, while the 5 people on the other side, 4 survived, right? 4 sobrevivieron. No te escucho.
Estos 4 que sobrevivieron, pudimos comparar a través de una resonancia magnética, ver la mejoría pulmonar del antes y después de la infusión de estas
Yes.
células. Y
So
fue
they were able
significativo.
to, so out of the 5 that were treated, 4 survived, and they were able to follow through the healing process, and they had a complete healing of their longo tissue. So they had MRIs documenting every so often, every few months, until they saw that they were able to have no sequela from the damage that was found originally at the level of the lungs. And this principle can be, if you think about our tissues, the respiratory tract is mostly mucosa, just like our female organs are mostly mucosa. So you can apply that that thought process into other mucosal tissue. Therefore, a lot of times we see that improvement of implantation by using exosomes and or stem cells or PRP, right, into the uterus by improving the functionality of the endometrial cells, as well as decreasing the inflammation that could be inhibiting implantation. And that's how we have created a partnership in the last 2.5 years to treat fertility patients using this technology. But there is a lot of data. There's very little data on its uses in fertility, and infertility, of course, is a lot more complex because there's so many other factors involved. But on autoimmune and chronic inflammatory processes, the data is pretty clear of the improvement of stem cells in autism, Parkinson's, Alzheimer, diabetes type 1 and 2, heart disease, and musculoskeletal injuries. So, for example, they've done they have documented high-end athletes, like, for example, in the Real Madrid soccer players. I had the honor of meeting their medical director at a seminar, and traditionally a soccer player would have a sports-related injury, and they were out of the game for at least 6 months before they could go back. And using this technology, they can be back on the field in 6 weeks. This is the magic of what's happening out there for anti-aging, accelerated healing, and all of these techniques, if you think about it, can be used and extrapolated into the fertility world. So, so thank you, Dr. Nario, for, I know that you had some technical difficulties, but thank you so much for joining us and giving you your 2 cents. I will get anybody that has any questions. This is our question and answer moment. Let's see. Do we need some tests to determine what peptides it's suitable, or can peptides be used as supplements? Can it be used during IVF? Yes. So far, the only peptide that it's controversial would be to use exogenous human growth hormone or omnitrope, because if somebody has the IGF-1 elevated, it tends not to work as well. But for the other ones that we were describing, the SS31, TB500, or the BPC 157, no, there's really not data out there. It's kind of, it could be an adjunct, and it's not going to hurt during early pregnancy either. Okay. Okay. So do we have NAD plus peptides plus water during fasting? Yes, you can have NAD during fasting. You can have peptides during fasting. If you're going to do a prolonged fasting, I generally recommend people to add minerals, so electrolytes to that. A prolonged fasting is considered anything past 5 days. You don't have to go into those extremes. And of course, it's extremely hard for most of us to commit to something like that. But even if you do intermittent fasting, meaning 18-hour fast 3 to 4 times a week, you can make a huge impact not only on your health, but also on your female health and your reproductive health. Okay. So we have here, I am not familiar with clinics in LA or near Los Angeles that can retrieve and ship to Albania. But that is a question for Dr. Uliana. Dr. Uliana, do you have you worked with any LA clinics before?
We have our team members located in the US, so we would need to check with them because currently we have already many clinics. I know personally several, not in the LA. I do not remember any clinic from that location, but we will double check. Even if we haven't worked before, this is quite easy to establish new collaboration. We just need to talk to the lab team and to the clinical team. And I believe that this cooperation will be possible. So you can contact our team and we will help to solve this.
And how can they contact your team?
So RG, International Fertility Group, that's an agency which is registered and is in the US, and we have a local team, US based team there, because of like our patients are distributed all over the globe, but we know how personalized care is important. So many patients currently are coming from the US and Canada. That's why our team is there to help. So I will write down in the chat the contact details and the email and the phone where you can get our team in contact with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Uliana. Okay. Okay. Let's see. We have a lot of questions. All right. All right, Miss Ava.
Well, Dr. V, while you're looking at the questions, I would like to take this opportunity to like really acknowledge how important this is, because nowadays more and more women are realizing later on in life that, wait a minute, I think I still want to have kids. And we are so driven to be successful in our industry, in our fields, that we don't realize time passes. And I think more and more people are struggling. The women are struggling to have kids earlier. Not just past 40, but even in the later 30s. So this is such an important discussion. So I want to pick on your brain a little bit, Dr. V. How long have you been in the field of vitality, fertility, and what transitions or changes have you seen in the last years that have really been giving people hope and ideas, even that maybe they still can have kids? Would love to hear from your expertise.
Absolutely. So there's nothing like personal experience. So I've been a physician for over 23 years. I never thought I was going to end up in the fertility arena. That was definitely a God thing. And when I finished my residency in OBGYN, I went into urogynecology and pelvic reconstruction. And that was kind of where I was for a very long time. I was seeing women past 35. I call them my veteran women, been there, done that. And then they're going through perimenopause. They want to, maybe some childhood trauma, childbirth trauma that needed to be addressed. And then as I was working with that group, then I get very frustrated when I can't help somebody. So then I put it upon myself to look for other ways of helping my patients just feel better. Went into the PRP world from a cosmetic standpoint. So, for hair loss, for skin, for sexual function, for vaginal rejuvenation. And then I started doing more and more endocrinology. And then I found myself in a life crossroad where traditional medicine and the stuff that I had learned was just kind of not enough. So I went back to school, finished a degree in naturopathy, and just more tools in the toolbox. That's what I see it, because it's never one size fits all. Dr. Juliana talked about individualized and personalized care, and that is crucial. So it started kind of evolving, and the more I learned, not only for myself and my family, then I just shared it with my patients. So all of these techniques that we're bringing up here, except for Dr. Juliana stuff, I have pretty much tried myself or on of a loved one. For example, it's like my husband, when he was younger, he used to do mixed martial arts. So when I met him, he had all these injuries. He had a bad elbow, a bad shoulder, a bad knee, a bad foot, back problems, and just slowly we have been able to help all of those joints heal with the stuff that I'm just sharing with you today. Diet, supplements, PRP with stem cell injections directly to the joints, IV infusions of exosomes and stem cells. And he is just him in my house is a living testimony that all of this is possible. So as you learn more, there are more questions that get created. For example, I've been in the PRP world for about 12 years. I started doing PRP for fertility probably about 8 to 10 years ago. And now it's like the person that learns a little bit about PRP and the person that I am today is extremely different. Now I went all over. Like I went to the other side and met Dr. Juliana in person and her team because I wanted to understand that new technology that I could bring home and offer to the patients. So this is a never ending story. We learn every day. And like I said earlier, the moment that you think you know it all, you're a danger to yourself and others. So it is that rabbit hole that just keeps spreading. Peptides, it's something that I've been doing just for a few years as an add-on. These days, I'm even incorporating the mind, body, spirit. So it's like I'm doing ketamine therapy for some of the patients. And for those of you that don't know what that is, essentially it's an infusion with this medication, and the idea is to bring out any potential psychological emotional trauma that could be hindering the fertility process. I'll give you an example of a patient that I help with this. I had a patient, young, 32-year-old woman with essentially normal everything, that just could not get pregnant. Her AMH was slightly low for her age, but it should have not been significant for her failed transfers. And though when I started asking her about her personal history, her social history, it came across, and she already had a kid, she had a child. It came across that she had such a bad experience with her first delivery. She ended up having an emergency C-section. That by itself, the running, the rush of adrenaline. They could barely get the baby out. The baby ended up in the neonatal intensive care unit. She bled to the point of having blood transfusion. Then she had an infection from her surgery, with her wound being wide open, needing prolonged antibiotics, something called vacuum therapy to help the wound heal. And she told herself, I'm never doing this again. So can you imagine the impact into that woman's subconscious and emotional, all around? And now, years later, on a on a conscious level, she was ready for baby number two, but she had all that trauma, and she had told herself before, I'm not doing this again. So her body was like, check, you're not doing this again. So there's so much out there to learn, and there're just more tools in the toolbox in order to help our clients, our patients achieve the next level. And that's what we're all here. We're all here to try to discover new ways of helping each other, because we're all in this together. We're spiritual being having a physical experience, and we all have these hats where, I have my doctor hat, but I'm still a mom, I'm still a wife, I'm still a sister, I'm still a woman, I'm still a friend. We all have our fears, we all have our demons, and so it is by coming to this type of collaboration and helping each other out with all sorts of modalities in the healthcare field that the magic truly happens. So, long story short, Ava, that's kind of how I came to be the person that I am today.
Well, you are such a gift, Dr. V, and thank you so much for, bringing the experts together and just bringing all the information. This is so needed. I couldn't emphasize how needed it is, because I'm just with among very successful friends who, are realizing in life they really haven't found the right person. There was a question a while ago, should I freeze my egg because I'm not seeing that I'm finding my ideal guy quite yet? I'm not sure if it's society, it's culture. We're waiting more and more for the right guy and for the perfect person. And we're finding ourselves advancing in age, although wanting to be a mother someday, really not finding a partner at the moment. So in
Yes.
situations like that, Dr. V, your specialty really comes. But I look at the comments and I'm like thinking, oh my gosh, people want to know more about this. They want to hear more about your specialty. So Dr. V, give us some advice for women who haven't quite find Mr. Right guy and they really want to be a mother. What are some of the,
Alternatives for them.
inspiration you can
Yes.
give?
So I know that as girls, we have this idea that the clock keeps ticking, and that is not quite true. There's some truth to it, yes, but that is not these days. I mean, you just heard Dr. Liana talk about, all these other options that we have. So one, you can freeze your eggs at a younger age. So I would say if you have not found Mr. Right by the age of 30, 31, 32, go ahead and have that security blanket and freeze eggs. Two, what if you decide to be a single mom by choice? We have many mothers, many people that choose to be single moms by choice, and there's nothing wrong with that. So there are many alternatives. We just have to kind of think outside the box many times, and that's why everybody that came here today is thinking outside the box. And so for if you don't have to just jump on whatever partner you have. I mean, we have a lot of same sex couples that, maybe they want to experience parenthood. That is also there are many choices on how to create a family these days, and that is more and more acceptable. So for younger women out there, you don't have to, stress about it. You can freeze your eggs like that lady before. You can freeze them and leave them there, and then later on fertilize them and go through the pronuclear transplant at a later time. That's what I would probably do if I was younger in that shoes, since we have all this technology that's available. And like we were saying before, like Dr. Juliana also mentioned, technology keeps developing. So I think that we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg as to the anti-aging science and the technology on reproduction that we're going to see continually to develop in the next decade or so. So I'm very excited to be part of that and to keep learning new things and sharing it with colleagues and others.
Thank you for that, Dr. V. Just to be able to support when it comes to freezing eggs, what cost are people looking at? Is it approximately, from how much to how much, if you have a range?
It really depends. The prices vary so much for assisted reproductive technologies all over the world that it's insane. You can go to a clinic and they can ask you $25,000 US dollars for freezing your eggs, or you can go to another clinic and it's 3,000. So you have to do your due diligence and do the homework and search it around. The world has become more and more, it's smaller. The world has become smaller. Just look at this panel right here, people from all over the place coming together right now. So do your research, see what's out there, talk to other patients, and then make a decision. It is not as unaffordable as it used to be. For example, the clinic that I work with here, which is CNY Fertility in the US, an IVF cycle with meds, it's 6,200 US dollars. An IVF, egg freezing cycle, I can't remember, but it's around like 4. So there are affordable solutions out there. So don't lose hope. There are many, many things that you can do in order to achieve your dream. All right.
My unmute button doesn't want to go away. Dr. V, thank you so much. One of the things that I think about when you talk about hope, and doing homework is what you do in Restore Health. So if I would like to take the opportunity with the time that we have for you to tell us a little bit more about Restore Health, because one of the things that I hear about, great things I hear about, is that you spoil people in Restore Health. So tell me more about that.
Yeah, so Restore Health is my functional medicine practice. And Restaura in Spanish is restore. We're trying to restore health. And we pretty much see anybody and everybody. I just try to serve the person in front of me. The only thing I really don't do is put bones back in place. So we have an array of services from ovarian rejuvenation, vaginal rejuvenation, sexual enhancement in men and women, testicular PRP, joint PRP, hair PRP, face PRP, IV infusions from chelation to NAD and immune boosting and glutathione. We have such a vast array of services, because like I said, many tools in the toolbox to optimize and help you get to your maximum potential, whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish. And like I said, I do have a partnership with CNY Fertility where those fertility patients can get all of the anti-aging through Restora and get all of their reproductive technology through them, but I keep creating relationships all over the world, so there's really no boundaries. So I'm just going to answer this question because I think it's very relevant. What percentage genes are from the donor in per-nuclear transplant at IFG? I'll leave Dr. Juliana answer that one. I know the answer, but I'm going to let the expert hit it on.
Yes, so the mitochondrial DNA is fully read already, and it has 37 genes. So the 37 genes will be inherited as the mitochondrial gene into the genetics of the baby. But the majority of the nuclear genes are from the mother and the father, which we in total have more than 26,000.
Yes. So essentially, the nuclear DNA and the how the baby's going to look and be, and all of the inherited genetic background will be mother and dad. The mitochondrial DNA is the part that is from the donor. So it is a significantly less amount, since the mitochondria does have its own DNA, but it's significantly less than what it's in the nucleus. Thank you so much, Dr.
Yes,
Juliana.
yes, correct. And we are doing a genetic testing to match the embryo and the mother. So we can definitely test this before we do the transfer if patient want to see the proof of the genetic connection, and we will see the exact percentage, but it's very low always.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a cool session. I'm beyond excited. Thank you for all the speakers of coming here together to share their expertise, their life experience, and their professional experience, and just, you know, just keep on pushing the envelope. Let's make history together, and let's share it with the world. Please share this with everybody else. There's so many people out there suffering, so many women that think that they're done, and they're not done. As long as there's life, there's hope. And even if they end up with donor eggs, let's say that is the solution, that it's okay for them. That is not the end of the world either. And we can support that body the same way as we would be supporting the body to do an egg retrieval or fertility treatment with their own eggs. We can still support the body for implantation. Some women will need surrogates in order to be able to have a family. There's nothing wrong with that. Like Dr. Liana was saying, she has a huge donor egg bank. So if that is a choice, there are plenty of banks that are out there. And I know that for some women, ethnicity background is extremely important. So yes, we can find somebody that looks like you. Some of the questions that I get is, well, how am I going to feel afterwards? It's you're going to be a mom. You're going to carry that baby. You're going to be miserable in pregnancy like every other pregnant woman. You're going to deliver the kid. You're going to breastfeed the kid. You will be peed on, puked on, and pooped on like every other mom in the world. And the last thing that you're going to think about is like, where did the egg come from, or where would the mitochondria come from? You're just going to enjoy motherhood or parenting. And so there is hope. Life is changing. Don't let anybody crush your dreams. The worst dream is the one that's not followed. And make your own rules. Nobody else is paying your bills.
I love that, Dr. B. What a powerful way to close this session, rewriting the rules. Rewriting
Yes.
the rules, and really defining what going with your dream. Dr. V, I wanted to take the opportunity to just go and look at who the guests are that you brought in the show, starting with a few pictures that we will bring in the stage, and if you could talk a little bit more about these experts as I bring them up.
Absolutely.
We have
Yes. So So Mr. Anthony Lolly with his wife Teresa. Dr. Amy, she was not able to join us, but she's also an IVF expert, and especially in low ovarian reserve patients. Yes, Dr. Austin, he is an advocate on women's health and a women's health coach, especially in the endocrinological area. And Teresa is the other half of Anthony, and they're very much into doing documentaries on healthcare. And so their most recent documentaries are Biohack Yourself and She Heal, which She Healed is about women's rejuvenation, and there'll be an episode on ovarian rejuvenation there. Dr. Tracy Stroop. She is a naturopath and a certified natural health practitioner. She also has her podcast on health. She specializes on digestive health and how to balance hormones naturally. So wonderful. And Dr. Liana, she is, like you've heard her, one of the pioneers in the world, together with her partner, Dr. Birol, that can be here today, in pronuclear transplant and mitochondrial therapy for fertility. She also does ovarian rejuvenation with stem cells and other modalities, and she's definitely changing the world and how things are done in this arena. So I'm
Well, and
very, very
Dr. V,
happy.
I don't
Go
want to
ahead.
take miss the opportunity to say, of course, we have our host, our amazing host, Dr. V, Dr. Maribelle Verdiales, fertility and vitality expert. And you can find out more about Dr. V on the banner below, both at maribelverdiales.com and restorahealth.com. And Dr. V, I want to take this opportunity. My internet connection is not great. I am in Dubai, in the middle of the bustling city of Dubai. But I want to take this opportunity to just let the people know, let our audience know that your book, the Healing Circle, is now a critically acclaimed bestseller of the Los Angeles Tribune, and it's now available on Amazon. So if you go to search for the Healing Circle in Amazon, you'll go and see Dr. V's ebook available at the moment. The paperback is available in her own website at the moment, and it's going to be available in many other bookstores in the next week, coming right up. So, Dr. V, I want to thank you for this wonderful 2 hours. It has been profoundly insightful and amazing. And I want to close, Dr. V, with just having you give us the last words. What are your last words that you'd like to give our audience through this broadcast, rewriting the rules, fertility past, over 40, beyond 40?
Absolutely. I'm just going to say, like I tell everybody, love is always the answer. And today is an amazing day because it's the first day of the rest of your life. So make it count. Go out there, change your life, change the world, and don't allow other people to crush your party.
I love that. Love is always the answer, and don't let other people crush your party. So thank you, Dr. V. As we close, I am going to first play our LA Leadership Week that we had last week. It's coming up again this year, May 1 to 7. But I'm going to give you a preview of what it was last year. And of course, I will also end this with the TED Talk from our CEO, Mo Rock, talking about the role of media in inspiring, educating, and empowering, such as with this program, Rewriting the Rules, Fertility Beyond 40. Dr. Maribelle Verdiales, thank you so much, Dr. V. We look
Thank you
forward
for
to having
all
you
of
in our future programs in the Los Angeles Tribune. And I am very, very excited for the impact that you're creating in the world for people that are finding more and more that they want to live longer, live well, and
Of
also have
course.
kids later in life.
Absolutely. Awesome.
Thank you, Dr. V.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you, Mo.